Hey listeners, it's Brady here coming to you on a bit of a special episode. This is an exit interview episode with Jeff Riseley. It's a long one. It goes for about 2 hours and it goes through all the things in his running career, and it's a long career. So yeah, it was amazing to have the opportunity to sit down with Jeff for a long period of time and talk about the highs and lows of his careers, the different coaches he's had, the different race experiences at all the different championships he's been to. And yeah, just get to pick his brains on the development of the sport and what he thinks needs to change and what things works well and all those kind of things. So I really hope you enjoy this kind of special episode that we've put together to go out this weekend. A massive thanks to Jeff for his time and his kind of honesty and authenticity and giving up the time and the honest answers which he did in this chat here. A massive thanks also goes to our Patreon supporters who help keep the show alive each and every week. There's no way we'd still be doing this podcast if it wasn't for the legendary Patreon supporters who chip in financially to keep the show alive each week and support the content that we produce. And yeah, obviously when you're doing 2-hour long form interviews, there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes to make this possible to go to your ears. So if you find value in it, you can find more information at patreon.com/Inside Running Podcast. And thanks to those legends who are already chipping in. Hope you enjoy this one and have a good weekend. Cheers.
Your skin can bring you so much pain. Now I hear you say you got the best of both ways. Won't you come and take a walk in my shoes and tell me if you take my place?
All right, this week's Inside Running Podcast is a special one as it celebrates the career of one of Australia's most successful middle distance athletes. Since 2007, Jeff Riseley has been competing at the highest level of the sport, and over those 15 years has represented Australia at 4 Olympic Games, making him one of only 9 Australian track and field athletes to do so. Jeff has won 6 national championships and owns the Australian 1K record with a time of 2:16. He is also the 5th fastest Australian ever over 1,500 with his PB of 3:32 and the 6th fastest over 800 metres with his PB of 1:44. Following the recent Australian Championships, Jeff announced his retirement from the sport. Welcome to the Inside Running Podcast, and I guess kind of your exit interview. Jeff Riseley, thanks for giving up some time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brady.
How's your last week been, Jeff? I can imagine your phone's been blowing up. As I said, thanks for giving up some time, and I'm so excited to spend 60, 70 minutes with you to kind of unpack your long, successful career.
Yeah, it's been a pretty crazy week, to be honest. I knew retirement was sort of coming, and nationals is really tough, I guess, because it's a heat final process. So I sort of had to get my head around a heat, and 800 is cutthroat, tactically, and I didn't want to kind of miss it, and so there was sort of a lot of stress there, and I just sort of thought, this is the right moment. And I told JR, and then JR told Pete and Tamsin, and it sort of all came out on Saturday night. So it actually ended up being a really nice way to do it, and I had my parents and stuff there. But yeah, just so many messages, and I think the biggest takeaway that I've sort of realized now that I'm retiring, and you read out my PBs and stuff, they're not actually relevant at all. It's sort of it's a little memories along the way, you get a message from Ella Nelson, and, she came on the scene as a 200-meter runner, and she stayed with us in Cologne, and we took her under our wing, and, we had had a cooking rotation every night, and we had family dinners, and, it's just little obscure moments at Falls Creek and training camps and all these little things along the way. You think, wow, I've had not just a good career, but I've had a pretty privileged, life to be able to kind of live, the athlete lifestyle. And athletics is tough, but it's sort of the journey, and with the distance running, it's the camaraderie with other people, and that's, I guess, why I kept going for so long. I just couldn't give that away. So yeah, it's going to be interesting adjustment period.
So what were the emotions? Like, is there a bit of sadness or kind of relief, or like what? Yeah, tell me what you kind of felt the last couple of days, because it's obviously the biggest part of your life, and you've been doing it for, you've been doing this as a job, and a huge chunk of your life longer than you haven't been doing it since you've been alive.
Yeah, like when I sort of wrote, like, because I sort of had to sort of come out and actually announce it, and usually in today's day and age, that's through social media, and I had to sort of, like, I'd write it, not a letter, but, just a little bit of a thing announcing it. And so I kind of opened up Word and started putting like notes down on the computer. And that's when, like, it really hit home. It's like, oh, this is final. And just sort of think about that. Like, I had tears. And so, yeah, there's a bit of like just emotions like bubbling up. Yeah. And it's just, it's just like I've been doing it for 15 years, and my life kind of revolves around it. Like, it's a pretty tough sport, and you've sort of got to live, like, eat, sleep, breathe it, So it's going to be interesting, not sort of waking up in the morning and going for that run, and sort of having those weekly plans, those short, long-term goals of like going towards a process, like work, So I'm going to miss that sort of continual improvement, and, sessions feeling fitter, and just like kind of building momentum and racing. So, that's going to be tough, but I'm just sort of hoping that I'm going to be able to channel, all the things I learned from running, the discipline, the motivation, the resilience, all those, qualities. I hope I'm going to be able to sort of, transfer back into the next part of my life. And, whether that's in the sport, well, it's going to be in sport. Like, I've got an internship left on my master's in high performance sport. So it's whether I sort of end up in maybe AFL or track and field or whatever it may be. But yeah, just start putting that back into people. I love investing in people and sort of trying to help people achieve their goals, and sort of doing it in a way where, you're creating good humans as well. You know what I mean? Just, yeah, good lessons that not only go into sport, but go into life. I think that's always been sort of how I've prided my career and my training partners. And it's sort of the environment and the culture that I've tried to build in any group that I've ever been in. So yeah.
Awesome, mate. You just answered about 10 of my questions already in the first couple of minutes. But what I was thinking we could do is go through your career. We could start from the start and then, get up to the retirement, which is, just last weekend. And then I've got about 10 questions I really want to pick your brain on, that kind of will, and I'm sure we'll jump down some rabbit holes as we go. But let's go back to the start. I'm pretty sure you grew up on a farm, and you weren't that super talented, I guess, little athletics kid that did it from a young age, were you?
Yeah, so like my parents have like a horse property, but my grandparents actually had a market garden. So my family are like 4th-generation farmers, and it's what my old man does. He's not on the farm anymore, but he's like a fruit and veg wholesaler. So yeah, grew up sort of out in Keysborough on the farm, and I actually got into athletics in under 8s because I was moving from Cranbourne to Narrewarren South and changing schools, and my mum wanted me to meet some kids before I started primary school, so she took me down to Little Aths, and I was always like pretty decent at it, but I actually excelled at the high jump. So I was under 9 state high jump champion.
were you tall when you were a kid as well? Because like you're pretty tall these days. Like you got that tall frame.
I was tall, and like my mum played WNBL basketball, so that's sort of like the sport link. So I think I won the high jump, and I maybe got 5th in the 800 at that time, and I just always kind of loved doing it, but I was like a really like late bloomer. Like I didn't really hit puberty till like year 12. So like I went from my school, and I was only one of a few kids that went from my primary school to Mazanong College, which was a Catholic all-boys school in Mulgrave. So I was like the tall kid, and then I didn't grow until like year 12, and I like stayed the same, and I got chubby. And I sort of started like year 11, I did the cross country, but I was like the 4th in my high school team. And like I had a friend who played hockey and he ran with a stick to replicate like hockey. And I just had this massive growth spurt. And by year 12, like I did a little bit of running, and I had James McInerney, who was a 147, 800 meter guy, as my sports teacher. And I did a little bit more running and ended up winning my ACC cross country. And I went to state cross country, and I finished 14th, and Liam and Dave McNeil were kind of the the big guys then. And I managed to make the state all schools team because no one wanted to do the all school teams.
Oh yeah, they picked the two teams.
They did the AV one. So I got in and I was so excited. I got my uniform and that was my first ever state team. And I remember rooming with Liam Adams, and at this stage I was like living in Narrow South and I was doing my runs down the dirt road. Like I was doing 15-minute runs and stuff and thinking I'm getting real fit here. And then I was rooming with Liam Adams and I found out he was running like 125 kilometers a week.
We were sort of talking about training and like I was just really curious and I knew nothing. And this was also a time when like we didn't have internet. Like back in these days, we used to pull like the 56K dial-up out of the wall and like the phone. And
was this nationals in Adelaide? Was it?
Canberra in 2004.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And you do all the excursions to the Canberra, like hams and stuff. But so there just wasn't as much information. So I didn't know anything about it. And I was just like, I'm in a bit of trouble here. And I finished 45th out of 50. And like cross country obviously was never my thing. I was a track runner. And then, the all schools came along in December and I got second in the 800. But I actually left the national all schools volleyball championships that I was in for my team because I was an outside hitter. To go up to nationals to do the high jump, the 4x400 and the 800, and I got second in the 800, and that same year I jumped 2 meters in high jump. So I just had no idea, and I was never really in any of the pathways either. So I didn't know anything about World Juniors, or I didn't know anything. So I finished school that year, and I didn't know what to do. So I just went and played AFL.
So going to the Olympics or anything like that was never on your radar as a 17, 18-year-old?
No.
You're just having some fun?
Yeah, to be honest, like my family, we're pretty chill. Like we're not very educated. Dad works on a farm. Like mum and dad didn't finish. I don't think they finished year 9 at school. Like we just ate bland. Like we were just we're sporty. We're just simple. We didn't sort of really know anything about it. And you always get asked the question, like, who's your idol, sporting idol growing up? And I never really had one. I just kind of did things. So I knew nothing about the sport. And it wasn't really I remember going to an A series in 2006 because I think Mottram ran the 2K Oceania record of like 450 something.
Yeah, I think so,
Olympic Park there. Yeah, and then it was that I went and watched the men's 5K as well. It was just me and my brother and
at Com Games, Mottram.
At Com Games, and it was just like the crowd when Mottram took the lead. He like stood up, and it was just it was insane. And I was just like, wow, this looks pretty fun. So that's when I sort of started training properly for track and field. But like if we actually sort of go back a little bit, like when I finished football season in 2005, I went back to do athletics in the summer season, and I ended up. That was like the same year that Justin beat me at Vic Champs. So Justin
was
Rinaldi
at the MCG.
The
trial race for the Com Games.
Yep, trial race. So I raced against JR there, and he won. And I ran a PB in the heat, sent me in the final. I went from I think 152 down to 150 over the 3 days. But I didn't have the national qualifying mark, and I didn't even really know what nationals were to actually I didn't have the standard to go to the trials for the Commonwealth Games. So I just watched it. I was But then there was a Box Hill meet for Vic Milers. There's the very first year of the Box Hill of the Milers Club. They had a couple of meets on, and Nick McCormick, Roffey, Hamblin. There's a few of them who are all running the 1500 at the Com Games. They came down to run an 800 as a hit out, and I ran that. And I ran 149.9 and got second to Nick McCormick and beat all the other guys. And I think Hamlin ended up getting 4th in the 15. I kind of just ran 149.9 just off absolutely raw talent. And then it was sort of that cross country season I went and trained, and I've actually got my training diary here from that year, and it's hilarious, 10-minute warm-ups and the sessions were small. And I just did all the AV cross country races, and I ended up getting myself relatively fit.
Because that was the big year, wasn't it? So you're talking about this debut year of athletics that you've got it kind of down to 150. I think, did you run a 351 or 352 in that first year and then made the big jump?
I finished that 06 season, and I finished with PBs of 149.9 and 356.
Yeah.
And then like I did the cross country season. So I rolled into like the next season, and my first 1500 I went 348, and then I went 344, and then I went 341. And then I went to Europe and went 338.
And then 146 for the 8 too, wasn't it, that same season?
Yeah, 146 for the 8. So I was just chopping time off everywhere. And that was just a really insane year as well, because like that was the first time I met Nick Bideau. And like I went to Wanganui for a mile race, and then I went to Osaka for the Golden Grand Prix there. And I think I raced against Nick Simmons. And just to put this in perspective, like no one in my family had ever been overseas or had a passport at that stage. So this was like rare air.
It's crazy because in 2006, March, April, you're sitting in the MCG stands watching Craig Mottram. 2007, you've got to qualify to go to the next Olympics.
I went to the next world champ. I made the world champs in 2007. I went to World Uni Games as well. So I had a pretty wild year. So I went to Osaka, I went to New Zealand for a mile, and then I went to Japan. I came back, then I went to Europe and did a bunch of races. Then I went to World Uni Games in Thailand, and then I went back to Europe and I ran the standard in Stockholm. And then I went from Stockholm back to Japan to do the Osaka World Champs. Then I went back to Europe for the Zurich Golden League, where I raced against David Rudisha in like an under 23 race. And I ended up with a navicular stress fracture, which when I look back on, it's probably, it was
writing on the wall.
Yeah, the writing was on the wall. Yeah. So I just went from nothing to like, it was just on.
Can you remember? So it must have been a significant jump in training as well. Like, can you remember early days of what weeks looked like then for you to make those big jumps?
Yeah.
Was it the standard kind of like Nick Bideau, the 8x1K and the threshold stuff?
I was coached by Richard Huggins. So Nick just managed knocks there. So Richo sort of coached me right through till pretty much 2008, 9. And then there was like a bit of a handover or just a natural progression. And so like during that winter of like 2006, I was running like 60K weeks. And then like I ran 348 like in my first race in like that December period. And then I went to Inverloch because I always did Inverloch. I never did Falls Creek. And I started running 100K weeks. So I remember doing my first like 100K week in January. And then, I came down and ran 344 and then I ran 341 in Sydney. And it was just so I had like 4 weeks of 100K, but then I would sort of drop back down. So.
And when did it become a job for you? Like at this stage, was there because you kind of been with Nike whole career, haven't you? Like at this stage, or did you have someone before you went to Nike?
No, I started with Nike. So that's a pretty funny story. It was 2007 and I ran a 4-minute mile against Paul Hoffman at the Vic Mile Champs. And that's when I first met Nick Bideau. So a week later, I had 10 pairs of Nike shoes rocking up at my door. Every single pair of Nike runner you could think of was at my door. And like I was 19 and it was just like all my Christmases came at once. So I was just so excited. So that's how that sort of started. So Nike was sort of giving me stuff, but then I raced in these Adidas LDs and I just loved them. So like Nike was sending me all this stuff, but I won the Melbourne A series. I was so naive. I had no idea what was going on. I won the A series in my Knox uniform, Nike socks and Adidas spikes.
I love that.
They were just like, they gave me a bit of a tap on the shoulder. I said, we'd really like you to wear our spikes if that's all right. So, but the milers like gave me blisters and I just had a lot of trouble with their spikes. And I think I eventually went into a pair of, I think they were the steeple spikes. You remember like the red ones that had like the hole?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they were the sort of
because the Victories would have been still a few years off, wouldn't they?
Yeah, Victories were 08.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, you would have loved it when they arrived then.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I had the special gold pair from the 08 Olympics that they gave us, and they're the ones I ran 332 in, and my first 145 and 351 miles. So, there's a few performances that I've sort of got that are attached to a certain pair of shoe that I'll probably sort of hold on to for memorabilia. But it was just a whirlwind. It just went mental, and I sort of was with Nike, and my deal was like small. It was more performance based, and then I signed with them at the end of 2009, and that was like when I started. I was really professional. I was making quite good money at that stage. I'd run 332 and 351 at I think age 22, and at sort of that stage, it was only really like there wasn't very many actually Americans. That was like when like the Americans had a bit of a lull, and I think off the back of that is when they started sort of pumping heaps of money into the Nike Oregon project.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was really me and Willis. We were the sort of the two, I guess, would you call us white guys? I don't know if that's politically correct or not, but yeah.
Because Alan Webb's retired by this stage, has he? I'm trying to think.
No, yeah, Alan Webb was doing his thing, yeah, but he was running 27 minutes for 10K and then running crazy miles.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
He was a little bit all over the place, but yeah, it was him, and then, there wasn't really a lot of depth at that stage. Like it was Mehdi Bala and all these other runners. So
and at this stage you're like racing, was it still, were they called Golden Leagues back then, or was it Diamond League? When did you would have done a bit of both?
Yeah, the Golden League
Spike.
They were only 6 races, and it was Oslo, Zurich, Rome. There were 3 that I can remember. Stockholm was what they called a super diamond league or something. No, yeah, it was like they were the levels under, and then there was not a super diamond league. It was a super Grand Prix, and then there was a Grand Prix under it. So Melbourne had the Grand Prix. That was like the World Challenge kind of thing. Yeah, there's these different rankings, and then there was the Golden League where if you won all the races, you got the $1 million or something.
That's right. Yeah. And this, I remember, like it'd be on SBS. You'd see the replay the next day, or if you got up alive, and it's a whole era, like you spoke about before, of like pre-Strava, pre-Instagram.
Yeah.
And we were just saying off air before, like I pretty much started running just when you were getting into things, and I used to remember you'd always dominate those Melbourne Track Classics and stuff at Olympic Park, and then when it went to Lakeside and.
Yeah, I was nearly undefeated at Olympic Park. I love that place.
Because there was a big win there, wasn't there? Was there a big win? Kiprop?
Kiprop twice.
Yeah. And nearly got Rhodesia at Lakeside, didn't you? Or was that Olympic Park?
Rhodesia at Lakeside, yeah. And then there was another guy, Yusuf Kamal. So he won world champs in 2009 at Berlin. He was like the Kenyan turned Bahraini.
Yep.
So he came out following here in 2010, and I beat him in Melbourne as well. So, yeah, Melbourne was a good stomping ground for me, but yeah, those guys would all go to another level when it went to Europe. It was a lot harder to beat.
Yeah. So then, first Olympic experience, Beijing. You still would have been pretty young. What, 20? 21?
Yeah, 21. I was. Yeah.
Tell me about it. What was that like?
It was actually a nightmare because we did our pre-camp at Happy Valley in Hong Kong, the horse racing.
The horse racing track, yeah.
Which we weren't allowed to run on because it was like hollow turf. So we were just doing all these loops on these concrete fields in the inside of it.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I got sick there. So like when I rocked up to Beijing, I got put in quarantine because I had like a fever, like I was sweating and I had like coats on and I was freezing cold and, yeah, so I stood on the start line and I'm coughing and splattering and I ran 354 and I was in the heat that Rashid Ramsey ran 332 in.
Oh, right.
And broke the Olympic record. So I think we went 56 first lap and I'm sick and I'm on the back going, oh no, what is happening here? It was just like 2 laps in, I was like 30 meters behind and there was nothing I could do it. And it was my first Olympics. I'd sort of been selected, not controversially, but because Athletics Australia had different qualifying like periods, the period had ended when I ran the standard for the 1500.
Okay.
So basically, like I was trying to run the 800 and I ran within 0.1 or 0.2 about 3 times. So I didn't run the standard. And then it ended. And then Craig Mottram and Benita Willis and a lot of our group were going up to St. Moritz to do a bit of a training camp. So Nick sent me up there and I trained with them and he got me into the Rome Golden League. And I went down there and I ran 336.0, which was the fastest anyone had run in Australia for quite a while. And I ran the standard. So the window was still open for every other country in the world except for Australia. And that's when like there was a big, like the journos got behind me and started putting heaps of pressure on AA to select me.
Okay, so this is like the Jen LeCaz story, like just a few years. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was they did it again. Like, the exact same thing happened. So Alan Jones was the big, because he's a big guy in media, and he put so much pressure. And basically, Alan, is it Joy? Who's the who was
Alan Joyce?
No, that's the one. No, who's the big AOC guy?
Oh, yeah. Mate, you should know this. You've been to 4 Olympics.
Anyway, he basically ended up selecting me. I think he tapped AA on the shoulder and said, put this guy in. So that's how I made my first Olympics.
Oh, right, yeah.
Back way. And, so that was also tough because, like, I sort of got in there and I kind of wanted to prove myself. And, I guess at that stage I was kind of seen as the next guy. Mottram was, like, on another level. But I was sort of the young guy coming through. And so that was really tough. Funny story, actually. AA said I should take a year off the sport.
Because what, an injury or something? No.
Because it was just such a bad experience and everything.
Oh, after the Olympics?
Yeah.
Need a year to recover.
I thought about retiring and getting an apprenticeship, and I was just like, this is,
But you were just sick, weren't you? What's the...
I know. I was just sick, but it's sort of like when you underperform in Olympics and everyone's watching, it's just like, there's feels like there's a magnifying glass on you, and I just sort of thought, that's all. Like, And then I remember coming through the tunnel and, Nick Guard tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Look, I'm not your friend. I'm not going to be your shoulder to cry on." Yeah. And that was what I got from Nick. So that was quite funny. He's walked off. I was like, "Oh, okay." So just run 354 for a 1500, and I was just like, just distraught.
So I actually saw that when I was putting all the notes together for this, like I saw the time and I saw that you were 11th in the heat, and I just thought, it must have been a real slow race, really tactical. I didn't know it was won in Olympic record time. Yeah.
Yeah. But I ended up sort of going home, and I was really determined, and I trained really hard, and that was the year I came out. I didn't lose in Australia. I ran 3:35 at the Nationals, went to Europe, I ran 3:32.9, 3:51.2, 1:45.4.
You could see how that could have gone the other way, though. That could have broken you.
Yeah, it could have. But I was pretty stubborn and just trained hard, and that was sort of like the coming out year. Really, 2009 is when
semi-final at World Champs, wasn't it?
Yeah, semi-final at World Champs. I quickly learned that 1500s are tactical and it's tough, and you've sort of got to be strong. I still ran 3:38 in my heat, but I think I was like 8th or 9th. Didn't make it through. So.
And tell me about that culture of the Melbourne Track Club at the time. With it built around, I guess, Mottram and Benita, like two superstars of the sport globally.
Yeah.
And you're just a bit of a younger kid. Like, I'm sure it was a pinch yourself moment at times, but other times, like, pull the line. This is what we do. Keep up.
Yeah. I got some funny stories, which I probably can't. Well, they're not actually funny. I probably can't say them, but Craig gave me a really hard time my first year in Europe, like really hard time. But I was naive. I knew nothing, and I used to just sit there and watch him. I just used to watch everything he do. Like, we had a 9:30 cutoff for training run. If you weren't there, people left. Too bad. I watched the drinks he. So he must have been sponsored by Endura at the time. So I pretty much got home and just stocked up on Endura. I just watched everything he did, the mentality he had, and how he prepared, and what he did during the days. And I just learned that first year. I just learned as much as I could. Well, first few years, yeah. And then Benita, she was by that stage, she was sort of moving up to the marathon, so she kind of wasn't around as much. I think, do you know when she ran her 2:22 at Chicago? Do you know what year that was?
Not off the top of my head, nah. But you would have been there like the cross-country title years, wouldn't you?
No, that was 2006, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, yeah. You just missed that.
So I was a little bit, so I think she was 2006 that, and then she was sort of running them, because she ran the marathon in Beijing.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, because she was doing marathon prep in St. Moritz when I was there. So Yeah, B was lovely. She was like the mother figure of the group, and she kind of looked after me. So she was like my mum overseas. But yeah, it was an interesting dynamic. Probably a little bit toxic at times. And it was also like, I think Craig left Nick in 2008 after the Olympics. So
yeah, Beijing. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they were butting heads already and just disagreeing on a lot of stuff. And so yeah, it was sort of a bit of a different like culture. And we had Collis, who was really good, and Bromley, who was really funny, and we had Dave Campbell, who was a crazy Irishman.
Yeah, physio too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he later went on to be the physio for OTC. So he used to spend summers at my family's house, and he'd live there just to save money. And then, we had Andy Badley, who was also training. So, we had like an Adrian Blinko as well. So we had a really good group.
So then injured not long after, was it 2010? He didn't have many results in 2010. Did you get injured again there?
So that's 2009 was when my plantar fascia started.
Okay, yeah.
So by the time I got to World Champs, it was in a pretty bad way, and it was being taped and stuff. But I was just sitting on anti-flams, and I kind of got through that. And I went back and tried to do a couple of races, and I just broke down. So I ended up shooting home and having to take a lot of recovery. And then 2010 was when Ryan came onto the scene. That was when he ended up breaking the Australian record. So I think from memory, it might have been like 2009. He went and ran that 10K in like 28:40 something. Do you remember?
Down at
Hobart somewhere?
Yeah, it was Burnie 10, I think. And I think it was 29. I think it was 29:20 because a young kid in my town ran 29:22 and just missed it, a 19-year-old. But he broke the Australian.
I'm pretty sure he definitely was 28:47.
Oh, 28. Sorry, I thought you said 29:47. Yeah.
No, 29. I think it was 28:47. I have a feeling he might have outkicked Benny Sane or...
Yeah, okay. Do you know if he was still under 20 then, or do you reckon he was...
Yeah, I reckon he was under 20 that year.
Okay.
And I think he also ran the 3:37, and then I think the following year ended up going like 3:31 or something like that.
Yeah, crazy progression.
So that's when sort of our little rivalry started in 2010, and we also had Roffey and Mitch Keeley that year who had standards for Com Games, so it was pretty ruthless. But yeah, my plan was in a real bad way. I couldn't get it right. I still did okay. Like I beat Nick Willis over an 800 in Christchurch for that meet that we do, and I still won the 1500. So I managed to kind of pull a few results together. And then, we went over to Penn Relays, and that's when I partially tore my plantar in the race. So I sort of came home, took some rest, and then I started to get going again to try and get right for Com Games, and ended up needing surgery. So that year was a bit of a write-off. So, I remember waking up in the morning actually and seeing Ryan run the Australian record in Monaco. I was so angry. I think I punched a few walls that morning actually.
So even though your teammates with him, like it was still like you wanted it, like super competitive kind of thing, you couldn't celebrate.
Yeah, well, like I ran the year before. I ran 3:32.9, and like I kind of wanted that 1500 record. And
was that at Monaco? You did that?
No, I did that in Rome. So a lot of my PBs are actually in Italy. So I wanted that bad, and then he kind of came and got it, and I was like, shit. And I obviously was injured and couldn't respond.
So then 2011 World Champs, Daegu, you got back on a team there, which was good, and then that led into the 2012 Olympics in London, so your second Olympic experience. Yeah.
So 2011 was actually a pretty critical year for me. I ran, it was probably nearly one of my better years. So I ran a 3:52 mile in the pouring rain in Oslo. I beat Choggy, and I finished fifth behind like Katani, Kiprop, the South Arabian guy, I think, who ended up getting done for drugs. But like it was a stellar field, and like with 200 to go, I was right with them, but they just kind of got away from me. I also ran the world lead and won the Strava 1K. I ran 3:33 that year in Monaco, sick. So Daegu, there was a lot of expectation that was going to be my championship. And that's when mine and Nick's relationship started to fracture. So
because you didn't progress like out of the heat, is that why?
No, we just had a few really tough situations in the pre-camp. He tried to get me to do a couple of sessions that I just wasn't ready for, really close to the event, and like I just couldn't do them. And I said, like, I can't do this, and he ripped shreds off me and told me all these stories, and my calves were cooked. I was just cooked. So that's when I started questioning what the hell were we doing, because I kept getting to these titles and not performing, even though I'm running all the best races in the world.
Because what was happening at Diamond Leagues and what you just explained, like with those guys with 200 meters to go, and then not being able to make a final, or not being able to make, you made one semi-final, I guess.
Yeah. So I was actually reading my training diary from that year, and it was like just really negative, like a lot of me questioning if I have the ability to be good and if I have the right mentality and the right temperament and all that sort of stuff. And I think that was sort of coming just from me and Nick's relationship just being fractured. So that was probably the start of when I sort of thinking I need a bit of a change. But Olympics were the following year, so I kind of stuck it out.
In hindsight, would you do
2011's bad reading actually when I read it back?
It's pretty good that you've got it documented there though. Like this is pre-Strava days, and you're sitting down with a journal and putting numbers in, and I'm sure there's going to be some fond memories, past time going back and reading it.
Yeah, love writing my training diaries. So that kind of led into 2012, and 2012 was actually a really good year, but that was the start of my osteitis pubis as well. So that was when things started getting crazy actually. So I had some pretty bad adductor pain and I had OP, and before I went overseas, I went and had this treatment, and it was RFD. So they heat like a metal rod up to like 90 degrees, I think. And they stuck it in my groin to burn the nerve to my pubic area so that I wouldn't feel it. And it took the pain away, but then pain went elsewhere. And like, I was just, I was just, so that whole year I was ruined. Like I could hardly run at different times, and I was on anti-inflammatories. I was on these heartburn tablets because I was getting so much reflux from the anti-inflammatories I was on. There's some things I've done to my body. I'm just like, I look back and I'm just like, shit, what the fuck was I doing? So like I ran 1:44.48 leading up to the Olympics, and things were going really well. But like in training, like I was, I had Tristan Garrett, who was a 4.8 guy, helping me with a lot of my speed work. And like I'm running 34-second 300s and stuff, but it would literally take me 30 or 40 meters like of grimacing to get my body up to pace and my groins to be okay, and then to finish the rep, and then I'd be in pain. It was just, it was shocking. And then I had a really bad Olympics again. And
that was 800 for this Olympics, wasn't it?
Yeah. I made both, but the timetable clashed. So I chose 800. So that was when I was just like, I ran a PB before the Olympics and a PB in my two races either side of the Olympics. For the Olympics, like I was in a position to easily qualify with 100 to go, and like just couldn't, no gears.
Because of the OP?
No, I think it's just the training leading into it. It's just too much.
Yeah.
Just never tapered enough, really, in my opinion.
So that's the trend that's kind of like, we've still got 10 years of your career to go because we're only up to 2012. But the trend I'm hearing from this end of the mic is like run some quick times, then have pretty poor championships to your standards of what you're capable of. And then like it's a real up and down kind of thing. Like it really depends on what week it was, if it was going to be a fast one or if it's the week after you when you're still tired because of the fast one.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't want to say anything too.
Hey, you're very tired now. You can say what you want.
Yeah.
And we can cut anything if you want at the end of the conversation and say, hey,
like Nick taught me a lot. Like he taught me what was required to be a good athlete and the mentality, and like there's some things that made me a good athlete and my longevity that are attributed to Nick, there's no doubt. But I just sort of felt that at times we were always training super hard because it wasn't just the championships. We had to go back and race afterwards as well. Do you know what I mean? So it's sort of like, so there's just like some sessions that we did and maybe just didn't drop the loads enough, or was just something that wasn't quite right. So
then was it after that Olympics that you left, and Andrew Russell?
So that's when I left. Yeah, and so like I went and ran 2:16.64 or something. I missed the Australian record, so I missed the 800 meter record before the Olympics by 0.08. And then I missed the 1K record afterwards by 0.03. And I was just like, damn.
And through those stages, do you have the belief when you put a good time on the board and then you lose a bit of a belief with the championship races and then you have a good performance, so you get the belief back again? Like, is it a bit of a yo-yo, like your headspace and what to think about the setup around you?
Yeah. Like I just started asking too many questions before a race and trying to control. Like obviously tactics are different, like at a championship compared to a race. Like when you run fast, you just go with the pace. And so there's that sort of stuff that just sort of needed to get my head around. But there's tactics and then there's sort of being at the top of the straight and not being able to go. Low race, like one of my races in 2009 at that Berlin World Champs, I closed in 51.2 or something for my last 400. It was crazy. That was always my ability. So, I just sort of felt that it just kind of wasn't working. I think mentally, Nick's way of dealing with me probably wasn't the best way. Nick has a really hard edge about him, which you kind of need, but you also need to realize that approach doesn't work for everybody. And like I'm sort of wear my heart on my sleeve kind of guy. Like I wouldn't say like I'm an emotional, but like I think about things and I like to feel things and all that sort of stuff. So, when he would constantly tell me off, like I wasn't like Mottram where I'll be like, you know what, fuck you, I'm going to go and prove you wrong. Like I would go into my shell, So I just think the dynamic and his style of coaching just sort of didn't really, sort of work that well, I guess, for me. And that's when I decided to make the move at 2012, which was, I still remember going to tell Nick and I thought I was going to shit my pants. It was the most scared I've ever been in my whole entire life. Yeah.
It's like going into the principal's office in a school, like that kind of vibes. Like it's
worse. And I sort of felt bad because he did so much for me as well, but, showed me the world and traveled and showed me.
And took you from that kid at Vic Milers clubs to an Olympian.
So I have, had a lot of respect for him as well, but it's just tough. He's tough.
So then you're coachless, and you also lose that group effect, like the names you were throwing up before, your training partners and your travel buddies and go on training camps and all that kind of stuff. I imagine for a few weeks there you're probably stuck solo and you're trying to figure out what's the next step. Yeah,
so myself and Kayla McKnight also left. So she ran the Olympics in the 1500. So I didn't have, in a sense, a male training partner, but at least I had someone with the same mentality turning up to training. You know what I mean? Professional. Yeah, professional, and we were trying to achieve the same goals and, that sort of thing. And this was around the same time when Zach Patterson started getting better, because 2014 he got 5th at World Junior. So he sort of started coming into the fold a little bit. And that's when I sort of also brought James Hansen in. He ended up coming and living with me in Elwood. I sort of started to, I guess, try and bring a couple of people in around me and try and create that group environment and, just sort of take a little bit of the challenge off. But my osteitis pubis was just so bad in 2012. I went and traveled. I did some backpacking after 2012 and like it was so bad I couldn't even run. Like I couldn't walk on uneven surfaces. Like I was just, so I pretty much missed the whole of 2013 recovering from that. And even 2014, I remember being slumped in a gutter over Easter up at Jan Juck because we go there over Easter and do a bit of surfing and watch the Rip Curl Pro. And my osteitis pubis was still bad then. And I'm thinking, I'm never going to run again. Like this is the worst.
You had your head in your head in your hands, didn't you? Your old man was like thinking that was it. Like didn't want to see you putting yourself through this anymore.
Gutter, just crying, just like I can't do this anymore. Like I'm still in pain. Like what is going on? Then we got this Andrew Hogan guy who consulted for the Hawthorn Football Club, so he was a groin specialist. And we sort of made a few tweaks. I basically had to get to a point where one of the physios at the footy club, and because I have an ultrasound machine there, they retaught me to use my pelvic floors. So for quite a while, I had to retrain my pelvic floors and get all that back. And then I basically had to then go from there into some really basic Pilates using those things and just retraining sort of all my core, like activating my glutes, just getting that whole hip thing to try and stabilize my pubis to be able to sort of run again.
This is post-pregnancy stuff, mate. This is
yeah.
A lot of mums are doing this.
2014, and like that year I was that year I got 5th at the Com Games.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. But tell me, how did you get Andrew Russell? Because he's always worked in AFL clubs. I think he's at Carlton now, isn't he? He went from Hawthorn to Carlton.
He's at Carlton. So the one person who's been with me throughout my whole career is Andrew Lambert. So he was a Geelong boy, 800-metre runner, trained under Scribbo and that whole crew. I think he was a junior national champion, maybe like under 17s. So he was the physio at the VIS when I was there in 2007. And then 2008, he went full-time. He was also working at Hawthorn. He went full-time. And I was the only athlete that he kept treating because I sort of lived out in Harkaway at that stage, which was near the footy club. And that's where I met Andrew Russell. He shared a back fence with Troopy in Ballarat, so he's a Ballarat boy.
Okay.
He ran 8:02 for 3K, and I think 3:40 something, like when he was like 20. So he was a runner. He was in the same race that Troopy ran his 7:40 Australian 3K record in Sydney. And he said he went through in 3:52 and absolutely blew up through 1500. Like he was just in the pack. Yeah, so he was a runner. His first love was running, but obviously in football. And he'd been doing a little bit of stuff with Georgia Clark as well at the back end of her career.
Yep.
And so he'd been doing my strength and conditioning from about 2008 onwards. So he already knew my training. He followed Nick's training really closely. He was always keen. He decided to take me on. But it was a unique situation. So that's when we sort of started doing some different things. So that's when I started using Training Peaks in 2012 or 2013, which was pretty revolutionary for back then. No one else was really kind of using that kind of software. And started logging a lot of training and trying to get a bit more of an understanding of training loads and things like that. But it was more also just cut out a lot of the communication because he wasn't able to come to a lot of sessions. So that's where Richard Huggins, who my first coach was, he's always been around, even though like I was coached by Nick, I still like was really friendly with him and I'd go down to police paddocks and still train with his group when I was in Melbourne. And so he was sort of the eyes and ears and Jack would sort of get to a session a fortnight maybe. I took on a lot of responsibility as well for just trying to get everyone else and create the environment and stuff. So,
I remember when you built that because it was like Tommy Forthorpe and Craig Appleby, and it was just kind of like, and then you guys had like good winters and stuff with the Knox boys. Like it was a really strong, something that was kind of built from. It was kind of built around you, I guess, when you were back in that situation.
Yeah, and look, I did a lot of aerobic work. Like I still ran 120K weeks there. I still did my K reps. I still did threshold. So for most of the training, it worked. Like with those guys, they were brilliant. Like they were at my level for that sort of stuff and better than me. So, we always had our Listerfield crew on a Sunday and, so like I was able to sort of make it work and, like take a training partner over to Europe one year. And so that helps. I had someone to train with and, it was tough. But I managed to kind of make it work and, 2014 was a bit of a turning point because that was my first championships, with my new coach, and I ran 5 races in 5 days.
You got the double, didn't you? It was the first time in 25 years you won the 800 and the 15.
Well, that was 2015, but in 2014 at the Com Games, that was my first major championship with my new coach.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just different. Like I felt fresh, I felt free, and like
you come home super
5 days in a row,
and you come home super strong in both those races. Like I watched both of them last night. Like with that 15, I'm not sure which one was first, the 8 or the 15 final.
The 8 was first, yeah. The 15, if I had been a bit more aggressive, I maybe could have been a little bit better. But
at the 8, Nigel Amos wins it. Radisha's second, and then you pretty much were there with the photo almost for third.
Yeah. So David Oliver was a South African who ran 144 a bunch of times, and then Chariot was the world junior record holder at 142, and he just got silver in the other the Tokyo Olympics.
Oh, same Chariot, yeah, right.
Same Chariot, yeah. And then I had Quemoy, who went on to run 3.
Yeah.
I think he ran 3:28 that year. I had Magut,
Yep.
Nick Willis.
Willis left his run really late, and he just got the bronze.
Yeah, and then there was Cronje, who got in 2013 won bronze at the World Champs, and I was 5th. So
yeah, but you were last with 300 to go. You come home flying.
Yeah, okay. So 5th race in 5 days. I probably just didn't back myself enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was also crazy because Jake Whiteman was in that race as a 20-year-old. Charlie Grass was in that race. So now the current kind of crop of guys from that race are now pushing through and killing it.
It's hard to get a Commonwealth Games medal, isn't it, though? Over 8 and 15 when you got to race those guys, because they're the most pretty much, the most dominant guys in the world. Maybe you still got to chuck the Ethiopians in there, but you don't dodge many of them.
No. So yeah, it was tough, but that was like those 5 days were just incredible. It was just I was taking caffeine and going to bed late and sleeping in, and I was just doing everything. Like it was just like recovery on repeat, and it was just incredible 5 days. My parents were at every race. I was so excited, and but yeah, it was like that sort of got my belief back that I can run at a championship race if you prepare and
evidence of what you're doing is working.
Yeah. So, and then I sort of translated that into 2015 and won the double at the Nationals. And 2015, I think, was probably when I was in the best shape of my career.
Well, that was some significant wins because you had to get past Gregson, who had the Australian record, and Alex Rowe, who had the Australian record over the 800. And you were the only guy that tried to do the double? Yeah,
and Ryan had beaten me at the Sydney Track Classic. Philo paced us, and I got on the pace because we wanted to run fast, and I put it on the line, and he passed me in the last 70 metres, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I remember coming out of the track, and Andrew Russell was there, and I swore at him. I said, "You fucking set me up. Like, what are you doing?" I hated losing. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me because the next week I think I went around 145.2 against Rhodesia, and I needed to get myself out of my comfort zone and find out what I had, and I had a lot.
Were you friendly with Ryan and stuff through these years as well? Like he's now that 1,500 metre guy at MTC, and you'd kind of left on, potentially bad terms, and then you're racing each other with 70 metres to go, like you said?
No, we sort of tended to avoid each other. Even when we're in the group, we kind of weren't actually that close. We kind of just had different personalities. He was quite out there and brash. He was the young guy coming through, and I'm actually very introverted. So sometimes I feel like maybe I'm not approachable. Some people might think I'm not approachable or friendly. It's just I'm a bit socially awkward and a bit of an introvert. But when I get to know someone, I invest heavily. But yeah, Nick kind of pitted us together as well. It was sort of that Ovet-Co rivalry, even though we're in the same group. You know what I mean? It was sort of tough. But Ryan was spending a bit of time up in New South Wales because he's from Sydney, and then, because I was a bit of a homebody, I didn't go to Laguna. I didn't spend from May till September overseas. I only went over for short stints. So I liked being at home with, my crew here and, Listerfield runs and all that sort of stuff. So our paths didn't sort of cross that much. And then, I just remember 2012, we raced against each other for the title, for the Olympic trials. And there was a big write-up in the paper. And I think Nick called me the pretty boy, I don't know, silver spoon or something. I don't know. It was something like that. And Ryan was the junkyard dog. So that's sort of how he, I guess, described us. It was like written like that in the newspaper, and I was just like, oh, I don't know why I got that tag, because I come from pretty much nothing. But yeah, so we were sort of friendly, but not really friendly. And I guess 2015 was probably the last time as well that I actually ran the 1500, because I ended up sort of doing more of the 8s. And 2006 is after 2016 is obviously where I had quite a bit of time out of my career.
Yeah, and less time to clash in races, go head to head, I suppose. So then another plan to injury 2015. Wasn't that, did you have to pull out of World Champs? You'd made a semi, is that right?
Yeah, I made the semi. So yeah, like I was saying, 2015 was probably the best year of my career. Like I won the double. I was actually, after Ollie ran 148.8 in that 800, I was sort of asking Luke what he closed his 800 in 2019 when he won, and he was 150.0 and I was 150.0 as well, but we ran 52.6 last laps.
Okay.
So different the way we did it. So after 2015, doing that double, that was pretty crazy. And then, went over to Europe, and I just kind of couldn't get into the races that I kind of needed to get into. That was my biggest challenge.
Because you would have had a change in management.
Yeah,
like Andrew would have taken over.
So I had Andy Stubbs, who was one of the nicest guys ever, but he just didn't quite have the same pull that Nick had. Like, Nick is an incredible manager. The races that he can get his guys into is just, sometimes I don't know how, I shake my head, I don't know how he does it, but I guess that's just when you've been in the sport for so long, and you've got a reputation, and you've got good guys. So I ran 144.99 in Lignano in a small meet, where I ran 144.4 before. So it was a really nice track. I won that race pretty comfortably. But one of the last session I did before I go into Beijing, I did 4x400 on 4 minutes recovery, and I averaged 50.5. So I think I went 51.0, 50.5, 49.7, and then 50.3.
Jeez.
That was my 400s. And then a short break, and then 3x150s in 18 on short recovery. So I felt that I was in probably 143 shape that year. But the next day I had to fly to Japan, and maybe we just overcooked it a fraction with the travel, being so close to the session. And I just remember flying, and my planner was just getting sore and sore. I'm like, what the hell has happened? My planner just blew up on me. And I had about 8 days in Japan before I actually raced, and we ended up putting a cortisone in it just to try and settle it down. And before the heat, I went and also had a local injection in it just so I couldn't feel it for the race. And that year I watched all the previous 2013 heats, and I timed every single one with the first lap in the last 200. And I basically figured if I run a 26.5 or a 26 low last 200 from whatever position I'm in, I'll be top 3 easy. I gave my family nearly a heart attack because I was coming from a fair way back, but I just cruised down the outside and I was top 3 easy. And I was just jogging, and I was like, oh yeah, we're on here. An hour later, the cortisone wore off, the local wore off, and I couldn't even walk. I was in so much pain, and I tore the shit out of my planner.
Ouch.
Crazy part was I still went back for this, so that next 36 hours I was doing isometric holds and trying to get it, just try and take a bit of the pain out of it. And went back to the track to warm up for the semi, put another local injection in it. I tried to warm up, and I did 10-minute jog, and I went to do a stride, and I could just feel it but nah. So I flew home the next day, and I think the second day I was home, I was having plantar surgery again. So 2015 was, I just didn't get everything out. That year I was at the peak of my power.
But then it's ridiculous to think that then you get yourself up again for 2016 and another Olympics.
Yeah, I was a little bit lucky because I ran the 144.9 in the window. I already had the qualifying standard. So there was a lot of discussions. Do I have this surgery? I've ruptured already. So the classic, Robert Harvey jumping off the table, natural, plantar fixed, or I've already had a good result from a previous surgery and been pain-free. Do I just go and get it operated on just in case, because it's Olympic next year and I don't want any what-ifs? So we went and operated on it, but there was just so much scar tissue and everything from like the rupture that it just didn't heal properly. So like I barely ran in the domestic season. And then I made a bit of a late run at it to get overseas. And my first race I ran 147, but I lost to Josh Ralph, which didn't help me because he was sort of in the frame for selection. And they wanted to obviously select me because I had the fastest time. And then I had to go and do a race in Kortrijk in Belgium, and I ran 46.2, did quite well. And that was enough to like ensure my selection. So I sort of actually didn't run a standard within the year leading in, but I already had the standard. So I was sort of a little bit lucky. But then I did a couple more weeks of training, and I switched managers, and my new managers got me into London Diamond League, and I ran 145.1.
Okay.
So like I was starting to really round into shape, but Rio was just a nightmare because the travel and the logistics of it was just crazy. Like I was in Cologne, so I flew, I think 27 hours to get down to Florida to the IMG. And then I had 3 or 4 days there, and then we had an overnight fly into Rio, so no sleep. And I was the very, very first morning of the program.
Not that same day.
No, we had 3 days there.
3 days. Okay.
Days. They organised 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
We're getting in there. So like I was the very first morning, and I just felt like shit still. And I just, didn't get out. Like I was in the perfect heat. One of the guys took it out. It was strung out. Every chance to run fast. And
you come fourth though, didn't you? Was it top 3 or top 2 automatic?
Yeah, top 3. Yeah. So did I run 46 maybe?
I've just got your 4th position. Don't have your time next to me.
Yeah.
146. Yeah, you were.
That was just disappointing. Like I should have been better than that, but I think just all the travel and everything has got to me. And I think the other thing was because I was coming from so far back, like every day had to be like 120%. Like I was just going for everything, and like there's just no room for error. And I also didn't have like months and months of training and that strength to kind of fall back on, and I just came unstuck a bit. So yeah, that was actually like significantly hard because it's like I've just gone to my 3rd Olympics and it's been terrible again. Like I was just like, what is, like everyone wants to run an Olympics. Everyone wants to represent their country, and that's like the biggest stage. And like to go to 3 of them and not get a result that you can actually be satisfied with, that hurt me a lot.
Did you start to feel pressure as well? Like, people talking behind your back, maybe, potentially saying things like, oh, you can't perform at the Olympics and stuff like that?
Not so much, because like when I moved to Andrew, I changed that championship mentality around.
Games.
I had Com Games. I had Australian champs. I'd won the double.
Yeah.
Beijing. I was in unbelievable shape. So there was nothing on that. It was just the planning. I think, in my opinion, AA probably had a little bit to answer for that.
Yeah, the little logistics and stuff.
Florida, like a 13-hour flight out of Rio, like when we could have been elsewhere. It just seemed odd.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And those games were like a bit shambles and stuff too, weren't they? Like, what was it like in the village and that?
Yeah, the village was like rushed. I remember reading articles and coming out of the global financial crisis, like Brazil and India were meant to be like the 2 emerging economies. And Brazil got the World Cup in 2014. And I think there's just so much corruption and the cost of it blew out, and they didn't really have enough money for the Olympics. And also like one athletics ticket was 1 month's average wage in Brazil. So no one could actually afford to go there. So the stadiums were like half empty, and so you'd be showering and it wouldn't drain, and like it was a bit of a nightmare. And we're so far out, like the village was in the middle of nowhere. You couldn't really go anywhere. But Rio de Janeiro, one of the most beautiful cities I have ever been to. Like beach, you got all the mountains. Like if it had the infrastructure and the wealth that Melbourne has, it'd be the best city in the world by miles.
Yeah. So then 2017, the only kind of significant thing I've got is Nitro. You're involved there. You're in the Australian team, the green and the green and the gold.
Yeah. So 2017 was like a challenging year for another reason. So
yeah, your mental health and stuff.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So 2016 was just like I was just under a lot of pressure. Like every day, I had to make every day work to get there, and I put everything into it. And then it didn't go that well, and then I flew myself back to Europe because like my Nike deal was ending, and I kind of wanted to get a good performance, at least as try and have a little bit of leverage on that. And like I remember going back to Europe, but I came unstuck. I remember being in Cologne and like I'm in this beautiful place. I mean, like, and just like feeling so overwhelmed and anxiety through the roof and like just crying, like just uncontrollably. Like, I don't know, I just like lost it. My mental health just got so bad. So yeah, like I kind of flew home and also had a break up with a girlfriend and just lost a lot of stability in my life. And yeah, I just sort of lost control of my brain, sort of like sort of thinking, just lost a lot of perspective on life and just thinking negative and like that, like, yeah, my worth and all that sort of thing. So I tried to sort of get it going for 2017 because I needed to sort of try and run well to kind of get some money and, try and work all that sort of side, like the professional side of the sport out. And also had a bit of an ankle injury and yeah, Nitro was great, but Nick was the captain and like I was meant to one-run race and then he pulled me out and it was just a nightmare. Like I just wasn't, I did the first like mile, that.
Is that elimination mile?
Yeah, and it was it was the hardest thing I've ever done. And Rams had beat me that day because
he was in Bolt's team, wasn't he? Bolt All-Stars in the black, It
was sort of more of a 3K, the way we did it, like more of a strength thing and what you could, like how you can recover. And I was actually going okay because I came back around a 1200 leg in sub 3 minutes, like not long after, like in one of the other days. But yeah, I had a really bad injury and I just wasn't sleeping. I was seeing a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and I just had to take some time away from the sport. And that's when, I decided to take off to Africa and spend 8 or 9 weeks over there.
And this was. I've heard you talk about it on Chew the Fat podcast with Matthew Tung. Like this was a rough time. Like we're talking sleeping tablets and psychiatrists and visits with your mum and kind of conversations about self harm and all those kind of things. Like this was a serious mental illness and pretty dark time in your life. I remember
having days where I'd lay on my floor just crying, feeling paralyzed, not able to move. Like I don't even know how to explain it. Like it was just. Yeah.
You lost control of your brain, like you kind of said.
Yeah, I just couldn't like think myself way through problems, and you just would gravitate towards the negatives, and like I'd be driving home from places, and sometimes you'd be just looking at trees, nearly locking in, and just I don't know, it was rough. Like I just lost a lot of my support networks, and I didn't know how to cope, and I just didn't have good coping strategies, and a lot of anxiety and so like it got to a point like I was trying to run but like I was just groggy from all the sleeping tablets in the mornings because you just wake up and you feel like you're being hit by a bus and like I wake up in the middle of the night and as soon as I was awake my brain would just fire up and it's like no chance of going back to sleep. It was really challenging but just took 9 kilos in my bag, flew into Nairobi airport. Had 3 books with me to read and I just tried to watch sunsets, sunrises, sunsets and just listen to the birds and just try and I think
off all social media and stuff like just I went off left everything away.
Yeah, no one knew I was there. There's only about 5 people who knew I left.
And was that recommended to do that? Like did a professional say, hey, this is a coping mechanism, this is something that can get you back going, or was it something that you come up with yourself?
So
it could be scary, like getting on a plane with a backpack in a vulnerable position.
Yeah. So Catherine, my manager's wife is Catherine Freeman. I sort of lucky enough to have her as a resource, and I sat down with her and she was telling me about a story where she was just so stressed out when she was overseas and racing, and she had so much pressure on her. So she just took off to Iceland for 2 weeks. And I was also reading this book by Sarah Wilson called Making the Beast Beautiful, and it's about anxiety. And it sort of talked about her trip to India, and just, you know, a bit of enlightenment and just like perspective. And I don't know, I think just because like I've always wanted to go to a 10, which I never got to go to, but I think it's just like a bit of an affinity with Africa just because of like, you know, the people we run against and the stories. And I also like had a sore, like my ankle was like, I was on anti-inflammatories as well. Like I was running in pain. It's just everything was just going wrong. So I had to take some time off for running, and I was like, I need to maximize, like I need to actually also take some time away from the sport, and I need to invest some time into myself and get myself right. So I actually was meant to be a shorter trip, but I ended up extending it because I was already starting to think about running and like the process. And I think that's part of it. I think as distance runners, we're all like pretty driven, and we're all got like a little bit of perfectionism. And I think a lot of us as well are sort of a little bit introverted, like
type A personalities, dot the I's, cross the T's.
Like, you know, because distance running is one of those things, like if you don't, not that like you don't feel like you fit in anywhere, but you can just go and like immerse yourself in it. You know what I mean? It's just you, like you're responsible for the outcome, if you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I was already starting to think about running and things, and I was like, no, like if I'm already going that, like I've got to be longer. Like I've got to like break that, you know, cycle. So I stayed on for another sort of 2 weeks and came back. Yeah, it was just the best thing I ever did. I didn't need any sleeping tablets over there, and I was sleeping, and yeah, just saw some amazing things and saw kids that, you know, just happy in their raggy clothes and running around and, you know, walking cows and sheep down the street. It's just like, it's just another world. I just needed to kind of experience something a bit different. And
I went to East Timor I went to East Timor to do a bit of teaching, and same thing. I just got nothing, but so happy. Like it's a real,
Yeah, I don't know if you've read the Resilience Project book, but
I'm going to see him next week. Actually, he's in Shepparton, just an hour from, and he listens to the podcast. Actually, Hugh. So
I saw him down at Collingwood Athletics track the other day.
Just ran 52 or something, didn't he? The last week, I think.
I think he had Masters Athletics on. Yeah. Yep. So he had his dragonflies on, punching out 300 meter reps when I was at the track. So he went to, I think, Nepal and similar thing. Working, teaching, and that's sort of basically what kickstarted that. So best thing I've ever done. Most amazing trip, and then I had Achilles stuff.
But come back and so you got the Achilles sorted, but then that led into 2018 home Com Games. Pretty successful at the Com Games before that in 2014. I'm missing one. There would have been another one in there somewhere. But then there was a bit of drama around this, because this was the one where you finished third, but Joseph Dean didn't make the final. They ran a B final, and he came out and ran quicker than everyone in the A final. Have I got that right? And then they end up selecting him?
Yeah. So basically what happened was, like, we had the championships. We need to have the A standard by it. I went and got it in the race that Luke won. I ran 146 something low. So there was only really me and Luke and I think Ralphie that had it. And they went from heats to finals. It was pretty cutthroat. Joe didn't make the final, and for some reason they put a B final on, and I tried to sort of win the race, blew up a bit, and Ralphie got me in the last 20 meters and I finished third. And Joe had nothing to lose, went and blasted a 145, and they decided to select him. So that was just a kick in the guts. Like,
did you feel a bit ripped off? Like, could you appeal it or anything? No.
Yeah, we appealed it. Yeah. And I spoke to a couple of lawyers, and it was going to be expensive. And one of them sort of said, "Oh, look, I'll look into it." And he was like one of the top sports lawyers. He's like, "Well, basically the selection criteria is written in such a way that it's down to discretion, and they can do exactly what they can do, whatever you want. You've got no, so it was a waste of our time in the end."
And even the fact that he'd had success there at the Commonwealth Games before, like, you think that would have played a bit of weight? Like, it's
it was also just hard. Well, the hardest thing is because 2017 I went away to Africa, and I was in the darkest place that I've ever been in my life. So my whole motivation for Com Games was I just want to sort of get back and prove to myself that I can overcome it and I can do these things. And having a home games and your home crowd and like parents in the stadium and all that stuff, it just would have been just unbelievable. Like, you know, so that kind of got taken away from me. Yeah, that hurt a lot. And that sort of, put a bit of a bad taste in my mouth in terms of AA and just like just the service I've given the sport and stuff. And I don't know, like, you know, Joe ended up having an incredible year that year. Like, I think he went around 144, you know, 3 or 4 times in Europe off the back of that. But, you know, now he's sort of a little bit lost. And I just sort of think, you know, maybe giving him that, like, if you give everything too easy, you don't understand what it is to work for it, you know? So I think maybe it would have been better if I was there. And but that's just my opinion.
And then what were your thoughts watching Luke get the bronze? Like, was that like punching the walls again, like when you were sitting at home?
Not really. I just remember that being just one of the craziest races.
Yeah.
Like that last 100 was just carnage. No, like I was really happy with for Luke. Like he'd sort of, you know, he'd had a really tough year in 2017 and he'd left Nick, and like whenever I went for a race, he's like always asked how I'm going and all that sort of stuff. He's like one of the nicest guys in the sport. So I was really happy for him. And it's just just more disappointed I just couldn't be there, I guess. And to be honest, like he was in unbelievable shape. Like that timing around 145 in the final was just outrageous. Like what he did to us down the back straight was disgusting. I tried to go with him and I was just like, what is this guy's on an absolute another level. So when Luke is confident, he's very hard to beat. And I wasn't in the best shape, but you know, that I'd been in because I'd sort of still coming back from stuff. And that's when my Achilles injury started though. So I think I was on my second round of cortisones into my Achilles just to make the start line for that one. And inflammatories. And again, I was just, my body was in a real bad way.
There's been a bit that's gone into the body over the years.
Yeah.
We're up to 2019 now, I think. If I've missed anything, let me know. But was that another rough year? Was that still getting over the Achilles? Like I remember.
No. So 2018, I took myself to Europe to try and race, and I ran a 1K and it was really bad. And I was just my bursa in my Achilles, no matter how much cortisone or anti-inflammatories I put in, I just couldn't run. It shit the bed basically. Yeah. So I came home from that, and that's when I had Achilles surgery. So I had a calcaneus osteotomy. They took out the bursa, they shaved down my Haglunds, and they cut heaps of bone out of the back of my calcaneus to create a bit of space when I go into dorsiflexion for my Achilles. And so that was just a crazy recovery from that. So that was 2018 in, I think, August, and Zach Patterson had his a month before me.
Right, so, and then you kind of rebuilt together. And was this still with Andrew Russell, or when did the decision to go to Rinaldi happen?
Right.
COVID, 2020?
So post that surgery, Andrew gets the job at Carlton for 2019, and his wife gets the CEO of Swimming Australia job. And he just doesn't have time for coaching, I guess. And I've just had surgery. And so that was the time when I started coaching myself.
Yeah, okay. And with those same sports again, wasn't it?
Zach, I coached Thorthorpe, and I coached Hanson for about a year.
Yeah. And was it mixed success? I'm trying to think, like, I remember only because that was my 5K PB that day at Box Hill. And you were in the field and was like, just stepping up to 5K, this is going to be good. And then I remember going past her at like 2.5, 3K in or something. And I'm thinking, I shouldn't be going past a guy like Jeff Riseley. Like something must have gone.
Yeah, no, like I was really fit, but 5K is just different. And look, that sort of rolled into why I need to see Rinaldi, because I'm going into these races and I'm worrying about Zach. I'm worrying about
Jimmy won it that day.
Yeah, you know, and I'm I shouldn't be out there pushing the pace. Like that's not, you know, and I'm sort of trying to create these races, and it's sort of, racing's hard when you're trying to control the race. Like when you race your best is when you just go in and race, like, and the result takes care of itself. But when you're trying to set up these races, it just sort of puts unnecessary stress. And I just didn't sort of cope with that, and I wasn't like it was just hard. And Jimmy I think ran 13:50 something, and I think Zach ran 14:04. So yeah, it was good, but that was 2020, wasn't it?
That was 2019.
2019, yeah, 2019. So then I
November.
So I had the surgery. Well, yeah, I guess if we go back, 2018, I went to Osaka for the Grand Prix, and my parents came with me, and Richard and Lynn Huggins came with me because that was going to be my last race. So I'd retired.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I came back. I think I ran 147 there, and I decided, I'm just not done yet. I just want to go to Europe and one last time and race. And then I sort of came back. I had that surgery with the mentality of, I just want to be able to get out of bed and walk in the morning. And I want to be able to go and run and be pain-free and just enjoy my running. So I had that surgery in like September, and I did that whole cross-country season. So like I ran something pretty decent for 15K at Ballarat.
Yeah. And I reckon you did the Ekiden. Was it the Ekiden relay down at Anglesea? Were you in a team there too?
Yeah. I think our team might have won. One or second, because I love Knox relays. They were one of my passions. So I did that.
Didn't Harry Summers get lost or something?
Yeah, he might have. And Hansen
you guys did win it.
Hansen turned up late at one stage and nearly missed his race. He had 10 minutes, turned up 10 minutes before his leg. So I did that. I did Sandown relays. I did the Albert Park 10. I think I ran 31:06. And I was just loving it, loving running, and just something a bit different. And then, that season I still was coaching myself, still coaching all the boys. And I think I ran 147 in the start of 2020. And I was starting to get going. Like I came flying down the home straight and ran 147.6. And then I was going to Brisbane, and then COVID hit and season done.
So then to Rinaldi, and then you come out like everyone, I don't know, not that people forgot about you, but it was like you kind of weren't in that conversation about who's going to qualify for the Olympics, and you banged a couple of really quick eights. You went 145 twice and then a 144.8. You nearly got your PB in Poland.
Yeah, so I guess so how I sort of got to Rinaldi was like me and Zach, we did all this work together over COVID. So I was running 130K weeks. I did a 30K run, 2-hour 30K run. I was doing huge mileage. Like I was the fittest I'd ever been. And then I did the 10, that 10 relays.
Oh, yeah, run the 10 like that.
Yeah, I ran 10:51, but I was honestly expecting to run like 10:35. I was like, I've never been this fit in my life. And that's when I just sort of started thinking, I'm doing all this mileage, but I'm also getting a little bit older. Am I sort of getting too far away from the stuff, the stuff that I need to do? And then we sort of got that 5K restrictions, and like I just couldn't train at all. Like my training partners live out in like the Yarra Valley. So that's when I sort of decided to take a break from running. And I had this feeling while I took a couple of weeks off. I was like, if I don't do something different, I'm just going to get the same results. Like it's just going to be okay, but I'm not going to get to where I need to be. So that's when I messaged JR and said, hey, can we do a FaceTime? And like the 24 hours before, I wrote all these notes of like what I want to ask, and because I didn't want to be like, I sort of needed to see what he thought about training, and then how I was going to lead that into asking him how to coach me, and that's basically how it started. And he said, yeah, that'd be great, and I went down, and it took a little bit of adjusting, and like the season went pretty well. I was still kind of learning because we were doing a lot more speed. And so like I was sort of dealing with like neuromuscular fatigue, which I hadn't really dealt with as much before. And like one of my races, I thought I was in really good shape, but like I thought I was going to fall over with 50 meters to go. Like neurally, I was absolutely shot to pieces in Canberra, and I was sort of starting to find my feet. And I ran that 146.8 in Sydney, 2 days after running 147 in Canberra, and I was just starting to come good. And then I sort of hurt my hammy, so I couldn't run Brisbane. And then, me and Brad were doing a 24-second 200, and he clipped the back of my heel, and it sent up into my hamstring. So I had to take a bit of time off, and I'm studying my master's at this stage, and I was just exhausted, and that's when like I had a bit of my mental health sort of went downhill again. I had another panic attack before nationals, and I wasn't going to go up there because I just like this assignment was killing me for this Masters, and I'm trying to train. I'm trying to get my hamstring right. There's just all these things just kind of overwhelmed me, and I had a panic attack. My mum and my brother sort of had to come around. And then, I went up to nationals in the wrong headspace, and I didn't make the final.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah.
So, like the funny thing is I didn't make the Australian final, but I made the semi-final.
The Olympics, yeah.
So by nationals and not making the final, I was all in at that stage. Like I had nothing to lose. So I jumped in an altitude 10. I did 300 and something hours in altitude 10 over 24 days. And I did 5 weeks of some really good training. And I basically just went to Europe, not to run the standard, but it's like, you know what, this is my last time. I can travel with Henry. I get to race. I get to race against the best guys in the world one last time. And you know what, if I get a few points and I maybe make it, cool, sweet.
Yeah.
So my first race was in Canigliano, which is in Italy. So I've caught the train up there on my own, and I'm rooming with a Romanian javelin thrower, and I'm just there on my own. And just all the uncertainty of the season comes flooding back, and I'm like eating dinners on my own. I don't know anyone. Like I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? I was like, I was going to leave. I nearly left. That night before the race, I went and bought a couple of blocks of chocolate and I watched a movie just to calm myself down. And then I decided, stuff it. I'm going to go out to the track early. I'm going to watch, and I'm just watching people. And I'm like, well, they're doing it. Like, why can't I do it? And I just kind of got into a good spot. The altitude 10 paid off, and I ran my 45:34 or something. And I was just like, oh shit.
We're on.
And it was on from there.
Yeah.
So
then Tokyo, it must have been weird. Like you'd been at, a few Com Games with crowds, you've been at Olympics before with crowds, and then you rock up to Tokyo with like empty stadiums.
Yeah. And I kind of liked it.
Did you? Personality.
It was just, it was different. Like, do you remember watching like that first AFL match of COVID?
Yeah, and they hadn't quite worked out how to use the crowd noise yet.
Yeah, so all you could hear was like people talking, and
like
that's sort of how I describe what Tokyo was. Like,
okay.
And there's no like, because normally you go there and it's just like noise, and your senses are just like getting hammered from everywhere, and whereas you can hear just everything. And like even post-event, like I'm sitting in the grandstand, like cheering on, like we got all these drums and musical things, like watching the high jump and all these events. And it was a way to, like normally if you go and watch the Olympics, there's a little athlete section that you're crammed into in the corner of the stadium. And we're just sitting on the front straight, the back straight. It was just like, in terms of experiencing the Olympics, it was just like unreal. But it was also sort of on the flip side different. Like Australia were just paranoid about COVID, and also paranoid about what the picture going back to Australia is going to look like because everyone else was in lockdown. So like they were just really strict on masks, even though we're in a bubble. Like we weren't allowed to mingle with anyone, even though like we're all doing international sports and I got friends from all other countries. And it was like, it's sort of a little bit like sometimes being in school camp. Like after Pete got fourth, we managed to like scrounge together about 8 beers between about 5 blokes. So we've gone down to like this oval at the back of the village where people would like hang out, and we're just having a beer, and Nigel Amos is there and we're sort of chatting, and there's just a few of us all just like, one of the officials sort of came down and he's like, what are you doing? Why haven't you got your mask on? I'm like, oh, I'm just having a beer. Like,
naughty schoolboys.
Yeah, I'm just like, Pete just got fourth in the I was like, so like it was it was unbelievable. And like at that stage I was just like, this is going to be probably my last ever experience. I just like want to take everything in. I just want to experience everything. And I just had like the most amazing time. And leading into that, like I'd spent some time at Font-Romeu and with Jai Edwards and Ed Trippers, and met those kids, and not kids but like guys, and I was kind of like their wise old man, and it was just like a really awesome experience. So I think if I hadn't made Tokyo, like this conversation would be very, very different.
And your best Olympic, result. You got through the semis. You
Yeah.
got in strike. Well, you didn't get in strike. The people in front of you got in a bit of trouble with 150 to go, and you kind of got caught up in you had to hurdle someone, didn't you? Was it the American guy?
Yeah, so that was the worst part. Is like this could potentially be my last race, and I don't get to control the result because like I was feeling good and I was rolling, and I had Chariot on my outside, ended up winning the heat, and I was on the inside, and yeah, these guys fell over, and Tuka ran 13.6 for his last 100, and Giles, who finished third, he didn't make the final, but he ran 13.84, and I was only like a couple of meters behind. So like, you know, if I run to that or faster, I'm somewhere in the region of 144.5, you know, 144 lowish to 144 high, which would have just been outrageous. And like the last 100 of my races, the whole way through Europe were the strength of my races. I was, you know, when I ran the 144.8 in Poland, I was weaving down the inside. And so, yeah, that was disappointing. So I think I finished 20th in the end. And like, if I had been somewhere between 8th and 13th or something, like that's just mind blowing.
Yeah. And then we're coming back to quarantine and stuff as well. Like, and we've spoken about like your mental health stuff. Like, that can't be good for people who just feel it's just, you know, you've been at the heights of being at Olympics and then you can't celebrate with family or friends or anything like that. I'm not sure if you're a hotel room or you're in Darwin in kind of like the cabin set up, but how'd you go doing that?
It was really weird because like we've flown into Brisbane Airport on the charter and all the police officers like, yeah, well done. You guys represented our country so well. Yeah. And they're just like herding us into a bus, into a hotel room. And like the hotel rooms in Brisbane, like they were nice, but like you couldn't even open a window to get fresh air, you know? So like by the end I was just like, get me out of here. But like for the first week, I was just so exhausted from everything that all I wanted to do was just lay down anyway. So yeah, it was not ideal, but it had to happen. And I was just grateful that, you know, we got to compete and, you know, we had to obviously abide by the rules and all those other things. So I knew that regardless of whether I was coming home from Tokyo or coming home from Europe, having not made the Olympics, I was going to be doing quarantine. I'm glad I was quarantining after Tokyo and not trying to pay 10 grand to get a single way flight home.
Yeah. And then that brings us to like Saturday night, your last Australian, final. It was good that you got through this time. You didn't have any dramas like in 2021. And then Pete Bowl kind of gets on the microphone afterwards in his interview and announces it. And then it was kind of not shocking because it was like you've been around for a long time and it was going to happen sooner rather than later. But what was is it the body? Is it the motivation? Is it like don't think you can achieve what you used to in the sport? Like what made the decision for you?
Yeah, well, I got home from Tokyo and I took a bit of time off and to reassess, and I was sort of getting back into training, and it was just sort of, you know, when you're unfit and training's hard and it's just like motivation was sort of hard. And then I ended up sort of working a bit hard because I paced my brother for Melbourne half. So I ran past,
remember? Yeah,
ran past you at the end there. And so I had to get in reasonable shape because he ran 80 minutes for a half, which is pretty good for an 85 kilogram football player. And that sort of kick-started. And then I sort of got this idea about doing indoors. So that fired me up again and got me motivated. And, you know, just the opportunity even to go to Falls Creek and sit up there and, you know, chew the fat with everyone and, you know, just train. I love Falls Creek and just the simplicity of it and, you know, the ability just to like immerse yourself in training. And so that kind of got me motivated. And then, but then I went over to indoors and I found that really challenging, just like the tight bends and the short straights for a guy who's 6'3", 6'4". And Adam Schott retired in one of my races. Like he announced his retirement and he was finishing off with 2 or 3 or 4 races. And he was a guy that I'd grown up my whole career racing against. So that kind of hit home. And then Eric Sawinski's a pacemaker, another guy I've kind of grown up with. And I just kind of came away from there, even though I ran 148 and 220 for a K indoors, which is not bad. Like it's not horrible, but it's not bad. Like they say 2 seconds maybe for, to outdoors. Like I was going well, but I was starting to get this feeling that I can't compete anymore. What's the point of coming 5th and 6th? My best running is behind me. Like I'm 35. I'm not going to get any better. like my time for challenging for a final at a world champs, like it's gone. Like I can't, so I sort of came back and I sort of got back into training, and we had a couple of tough sessions with Pete, and I was just like, he just has this ability to just keep squeezing down these like reps, and he just sneaks away from you and runs a 37-second 300. I'm still running 38s, which is great, but it's just like the anaerobic stuff was just taking a bigger and a bigger toll on my body. Like if we think about people who are, 35 and still running, they've usually moved up 2 or 3 events.
Yeah.
They don't stay at the 800.
Well, that's what we said on the show last week when we kind of quickly spoke about it. Like, you've made all these teams at such a competitive event. Like, it's not like you done the 8 and 15 and then stepped up to the 5 and then you went to the roads. Like, there's always young kids coming through who can run good 8s and 15s. Like, you're in the mix of it there.
And a lot of guys run their PBs when they're young.
Yeah.
Like, it's not something you do when you're older. And yeah, it's also just getting to the point. Like, I've got an internship left in my master's, which I sort of actually organised for October, November last year at the footy club, and that got put on hold because of COVID protocols within the AFL. And yeah, like, it's obviously more and more, it's nearly impossible for me at the moment, like, to make money out of running because I'm old and I'm not marketable anymore. So yeah, it just kind of got to a point as well, and I'm at the Nationals, I'm watching like Ollie Hoare just going for it, and I'm watching Ramsden like just absolutely gritting it out in the last 100 of that 5K, and I'm just like, those guys, they're hungry, they want to prove themselves, and I'm just like, I don't really have anything left to prove, like, I'm tired. I just don't. I've lost that killer hard edge that you need, and Tokyo was fantastic, but more Tokyo was, the competing was nice, but it was just more about, having a nice send off because I poured so much of my heart and soul into the sport. I just wanted to sort of do it for me as well. It wasn't sort of like, I wasn't going there with the same mentality of Pete trying to win a medal. I was just, and not that I was still going to train, like, do my best, but I was sort of happy that I was able to get there more than anything.
Yeah, sounds like it's good terms, good times. And I guess having a front row of what Pete's doing in training probably doesn't help.
Yeah, look, I wish I was 29 and I was in 2015 kind of shape and I was going head-to-head at Pete. I'd love that. It'd be so good for our training group. But,
what is the transition?
I'm also just happy because, like, if I had retired after Tokyo, I would have had that what if. Like, I didn't get to control my last race, whereas now I know. Like, I've got nothing left to give. I also got to experience indoors for the first time ever in my whole career, European winter and, running with 5 layers on, so I still got to, like, have some awesome experiences, like, even right to the end.
Yeah, and the transition now, like you spoke about the internship, like you've done a double degree, exercise, sports science and sports management, and a master's in high performance sport. Have I got that right?
Yeah.
Like that's where you'll go. But like, do AA or Nike or anyone put like anything in place for you to, because it's a massive change. Like, is there any, this is what we recommend or this is how we help you get from here to here? Like, it's, what's it look like? Or figure it out yourself?
Yeah, sort of. Like, there's definitely some resources out there, and like the AOC, while we're in quarantine, had webinars and stuff. Like, that's how I kind of ended up starting my online coaching thing. Like, there was a website building thing, and I was like, oh, that could work. Like, to, so like there's like it's getting better, but it is hard. You've sort of got to navigate it a little bit. But I've also sort of known for a little while that, like, I was going to get to that point. So, like, I worked part-time for 4 years for a sports consulting company and got to sort of experience the business side of sport and realize that wasn't me. Like, I love helping people and working with people achieve goals and stuff. So that's sort of why I ended up directing into my master's. And I've applied, I put a nomination in for the athlete advisory board. So they're kind of like the athlete's voice for AA in terms of high performance and the direction AA are going. So, that's a way to stay connected and will, also be good for my resume. And then, I'm just, I sort of time my internship for when I retire so that I can kind of use that to potentially roll into a job. So I'm doing that at the Hawks, at the Hawthorn Football Club. And then, I just picked up a part-time gig in one of the APS schools doing cross-country. So I'm pretty excited about that because I think cross-country, like NCAA cross-country, looks like the most fun because it's not about the individual result. It's about the team, and you got to have like 10 deep guys. And so
that's why I love the AV system. Like that win to 10 rounds is great.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that. So I kind of feel like that was the other thing. It was a timing thing. Like if I had gone to Europe and waited, like I get back at the end of the footy season, I got to wait a few months till preseason starts and, some of the APS stuff is finished. So just with the timing of it, like, if I can sort of do a little bit, still stay involved in the sport from a coaching perspective, and then I can sort of do my internship and be in like elite performance, then I'm sort of got two different foots in two different doors, and I can sort of figure out what it is that, I'm passionate about, I guess. So.
Do you think you'll still run like as an exercise point of view and jump in will you go to a marathon for a bucket list and things like that?
So I think I'm doing Melbourne.
So they're signed up already.
Well, I'm not signed up already, but my brother did the half last year, and he said when he did the half, like he'd like to try and do the full.
Yeah.
So it's just something that I'd like to do with him, like probably maybe just try and break 3 hours. Like I don't want to try and do it the way you guys do it. But it'd be just like, I love my time out there doing the half, and it was just such an amazing morning, like last year for Melbourne, and just seeing all the runners around. So I think I'm going to give a half a go, but I'm probably going to do it like with one long run on a weekend, one session maybe on a Tuesday, and then just a couple of easy 30-minute runs. So I'm going to sort of do it on the bare bones, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And what's it like on that day? Like, you ran with your brother, 80 minutes, sub 80, was it? Did you go under?
No, he went 80-26 or something.
80. So the people around you, like you're a 4-time Olympian, but that's a whole different part of the sport. Like there's a lot of people that you would have been running around for 21K that would have no idea that you're an Olympian. And there's 15, 20,000 people like in that event. Like it's
no one knew who I was.
Exactly, yeah. So do you think that's a problem with our sport, like that disconnect?
Yeah, it's quite funny. So there was a girl that was running with us, and I was chatting with my brother, like, we're sitting on 350s, man. This is really good. And she's like, oh, sweet, I'm going to run with you guys. So I was just asking about her running and asking about her training. And then she ended up tracking me down on Instagram, and like a few days later, and she realized that she was, I guess she was running with a 4-time Olympian. So that was pretty funny. But it's a problem. I don't know how we solve it, because like the fun running side is like a lot different to, the track and field side, like you're in that space, got the podcast, you've got Run to BB, like people can like kind of associate that, but people don't really go out and run an 800 for fun on the weekend. You know what I mean? It's not like that participatory thing. So,
it's a different world.
Yeah.
And that's where Parkrun's done such a good job, like just that 5K weekly times, like, having those numbers. But then I'm sure a lot of those 5K runners have no idea who Stewie is. Like he's the best 5K we've got going around at the moment.
Well, and this is what I've sort of been thinking about for a long time. Like the people running the park run and the people just run around the tan, they're going through the same emotions we're going through. Like they're hurting the same way, they're questioning their body the same way. Like it's all the same. It's just at different paces. Like,
and they have so much respect for those paces.
Just because we're fit, like it doesn't mean that it's easy for us. Like we still batter ourselves. So and I've sort of said this before, like it's slowly changing, like Run to BB are doing a great job. You got Pulse, you got the Run Crew. There are a lot more of these. I think it just takes education, I think.
Yeah, knowledge and access to the information. If you get a runner who
doesn't know much about it and they contact Run to BB, like half your time is spent teaching them about training. Once they learn how to train and they understand pace judgment and fartlek and the different thresholds and intervals and stuff, then they can probably start to relate to like what it goes into performance in the same way that we do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Like if someone wants a personal trainer, there's a million of them. But if someone wants to know about running, they don't really know where to go.
Especially until 3 or 4 years ago, before any of these online coaches, it's awesome because like that high tide raises all shit. So every time I see a new one starting up, I'm like, this is good. Like this is, because in the past as well, it was people giving run advice were like the Instagram influencers. And you're like, no. You guys shouldn't be dishing out this kind of stuff. Just because you've got a lot of followers, don't go giving tips about how to run City to Surf. Like there's people who know this kind of stuff out there. But I think, everything's on the right path and moving well to kind of bridge that gap between what you guys are doing at the Olympics and Tokyo, and kind of having information about who they are when you're sitting on the couch watching them and being inspired by them when you go out for your park run on a Saturday morning.
So Ben Harradine, a former Australian discus thrower, when he retired, he took a job for one of the Swedish clubs. So it's Box Hill.
Yeah.
So his Box Hill club turned over 40 million euros.
Jeez.
A year.
But how? Yeah. Like from funding or grants or stuff like that?
No, they owned 3 or 4 different fun runs, and one of them had 40,000 people in it.
Okay.
So whereas the people who own the City to Surf, the people who own Melbourne Marathon, I don't know who, all the media can people. So that money
ING, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's not getting fed back into sport. It's going into rich people's money. Whereas this money went to the club, and then the club paid the coaches, the club paid the athletes, and everyone had free rego. All you had to do was come and volunteer to give out drink bottles and all that sort of stuff. So they had and a couple of their fun runs, I think one of them was at New Year's Eve. I think some of them started at midnight in the dark. And they had massive, massive turnouts. So I think, and obviously AA have tried to sort of make Run West. Is it Run West? Is that a fun run in Sydney?
Yeah, I think so.
Doing stuff.
But that's not a good sign if I don't know much about it.
Yeah. So Athletics Australia don't own any assets that produce revenue. So if you're not producing any revenue, how are you funding the sport? Yeah,
they're relying too much on the grants and stuff, you think, that's the government kind of funding and stuff like that. But you're saying there's this other massive income source that's there that is a business for some people that makes huge money, but the sport never actually benefits from that.
Yeah, exactly.
Good point.
How many, 75,000 people?
I think, 75, 80,000. Melbourne Marathon's 30,000.
And how much is the average entry for City to Surf?
It'd be a good $80, wouldn't it? $85.
So I'm not very good at maths, but what's 75,000 times 100? Is that 7.5 million or more?
About 6 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a fair bit of money. That's probably the whole money that
road closures don't cost that much.
Hey?
14K worth of road closures don't cost that much. I'm sure there are some expenses.
And all other sort of stuff on top of it. Do you know what I mean? So,
but then you might get a $250 a Rebel gift voucher or something if you come third. You know what I mean? They're not paying down to 20th.
Yeah, I remember Nick telling a story. City to Surf wanted Mottram to come down, and Nick said, his cost is $50,000. Because I think that's roughly what Mottram was getting paid to go and do, Central Park 10K.
10K, stuff like that.
Those sort of stuff. And they just laughed at him.
Yeah.
Oh, he's not coming then.
Yeah. All right, mate, I've got some quick fire questions for you.
Yeah.
We've done some good stuff. We've been going for a while because your career's gone for a while, but here's some hopefully some fun ones for you. What are your top 3 races of your career? You can only pick 3 of them. What are they?
Top 3 races. My Oceania 1K record.
216. 216. Yeah, was it 216 at low as well?
Yeah,
216.09.
Even though it's on the world ranking points, it's not as much as my 332.9, but that's probably it. My 352 mile in Oslo where I got 5th, that was pretty crazy considering the field. And then probably on my 144.4.
Yeah. I like it. You went 3 different distances.
Yeah. No champions, but yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
What about toughest Australian competitor you've gone up against over 15 and 8? The person's name, you see him on the entry list and you think, shit, I've got to race this guy again, or didn't rate.
Ryan.
Yep.
We always had some big battles. I didn't enjoy racing him because he had the ability to make some meters on you in about 10 meters. He just had a change of pace that not many other guys had. And if you weren't ahead of it, he was in front of you and then it was hard to get it back.
Yeah. And what about internationals?
Probably Nick Willis. I may actually be ahead of him on head to head because I beat him a few times when he was coming back from hip surgery. But he was just a guy that I just respected so much. He sent me a really nice message, and I messaged him back, and early in my career when I was naive, like all I wanted to do was beat him. But when I understood the sport and when I started to learn more about the sport and I understood it, like he was the guy that I wanted to be. Like his ability just to not only run the times he did, but like when he did, like he was always in shape at the right time. And like some of his Monaco races when he ran 3:29, like he's out the back, but he just like his pace judgment and the way he runs through fields, I just loved it.
Yeah, he gets it right, doesn't he, at the right time?
Yeah.
Putting you in charge at AA for a day. You can make whatever changes you want, and they're going to stick. What do you do? Athletics Australia.
Oh, I think I need more than a day.
No, okay. I'll give you a week. I'll give you as long as you want. But what things are on the top of your agenda? You walk in there.
Yeah, I think we've got an issue at the moment with the pathway for young kids.
Okay, because a lot of them end up in the States.
I think now in the time of my career that I've been doing the sport, it's changed, and now you nearly have to go to college in America unless you think you can run 3:34 by the time you're 21, where you can sign a deal and you can kind of be doing it professionally.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're better in that system, learning, and then you come out of that system. If you're really good, you win NCAAs, you're like Ollie and Morgan, and you can put yourself in a good situation.
And you got time to make yourself good.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about World Athletics? Put yourself in charge of World Athletics. What do you change on a global level of the sport?
I actually think they're getting better. I think their social media and their content stuff is getting better. So I think we've got to get better, and it's not, maybe it's not it's World Athletics, but we've got to get better at storytelling. Like understanding the athlete's story, and it's pretty hard to break into Australia media because football's saturated, but no one knows the story. There's some really good stories on athletes out there, but it's not relevant. You know what I mean?
It's hard to be a fan if you don't know them.
Yeah, it's hard to cut through when you got so much football and cricket and all that stuff.
What about this one? You are a message to a young 16, 17-year-old who's potentially listening to this, got similar PBs that you had at 16, 17. So, not lighting the world
on fire. Very good.
They're still pretty good. Not lighting the world on fire, but they've got a bit of potential there.
Yeah.
They aspire to get an Olympic singlet, Australian singlet at the Olympics or World Champs or whatever. What do you tell them?
Do the basics really well and keep turning up.
Very good. What about this one? You've experienced like the pre and post technology side of things. So like when you started, no Strava, no Garmin's, no social media. What do you miss about the simpler times? And then what are you glad is here during like this new era of the sport and the way that technology's impacted it?
I don't think the only negative I can think of with the technology is maybe comparison. You know what I mean?
Too much of it, yeah.
Too much comparison and maybe people too much overthinking their runs. Like, I don't know about you. If I go on an easy run, I have my watch set with just the time.
I do the same. Yeah.
I just go by feel, and I'm like, I can pretty much tell you at the end of the race at the end of the run what it probably will be.
Yeah, I like having a guess.
5 seconds of what it is average K pace.
Yeah.
So I'm all about feel. I love the feeling that running gives me. I don't need my watch to tell me about it.
Yeah, good one. And then maybe the final one. In hindsight, what do you change about your career? Anything? No regrets, or would have you different coaching changes sooner, or stay for longer, or get in a better position in that semi-final so you don't have to jump someone with 150 metres to go? I'll give you one wish.
I wish I respected my body more, but I was so driven when I was young that I would have jumped through anything anyway. Do you know what I mean? So I probably needed someone to better manage me early on in my career. What I'm kind of learning is it's like, if you want to be really good, it's just about consistency, and if I go back and look at Stewie, I remember racing Stewie in 2018 over 1500 at the Brisbane Track Classic after I missed out on selection. And Luke won in 3:37. I think I ran 3:38. Stewie ran 3:40. This is in 2018. Like by 2020, I think he was running like 3:31. You know, like he's just put a body of work together over the last 4 years where you can turn up to Penguin in December and run 3:50.
Yeah.
It's an expectation. You know what I mean? And like that comes with consistency. And when you have like a consistent run of performances the way he is, if you keep turning up to an Olympics or a World Champs and you keep putting yourself in the finals, like the sport's about timing. Eventually he's going to win a medal. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like Lewandowski turned up enough. He got bronze in a 1500 in Doha. Like obviously a superstar athlete, but so is Stewie. You know, one of the Ingebrigtsen's brothers, Philip, he won bronze in 2017, I think. Like, so, but my career was like 1 good year, 1 year out injured, 1 good year, 1 year out injured, like I just never got that consistency. So that's my biggest regret, is that I didn't get the consistency. And I think I had a lot of talent that I didn't get the most out of because of that. And yeah,
what could have happened if you had a 8-year or 6-year uninterrupted run?
Yeah. Where instead, you know, I've had plantar surgeries and like osteitis pubis, I've had Achilles surgeries, I've had everything.
Hey,
so, that's my biggest regret, is just, and like sometimes injuries are part of the sport. You can't get rid of those, but I think I probably could have maybe been a bit smarter in different periods.
Who do you want to thank? Who stands out as people that have helped you so much over your career?
Well, it's hard to point out one, and I don't want to be like disrespectful either. Andrew Russell's probably had the biggest influence on my career, not only as a coach, but as a mentor, and sort of, especially in his role in what he does at Carlton and Hawthorn. Like, he just gives me so much advice, because that's sort of the area I want to get into. So just being able to have the ability to pick up my phone and call him whenever, it's pretty incredible. Andrew Lambert was like more than a physio. He was sometimes my psychologist. Obviously got to say thank you to Nick. Like, as much as we maybe butted heads and there's some things that I didn't agree with, like, he helped me a shitload. And like, I'll be forever grateful for that. I don't think I would have potentially had the career I had if it wasn't for him. James Murch, my manager, for the last part of my career. Alphonse Jack over in Slovakia, he's my race manager. Gary Maridis. Yeah, so that they're probably all the people who've been involved. I keep a pretty small circle, and then there's so many training partners and teammates and stuff that it'd be hard to name them all.
Beautiful, mate. Well, we've been nearly going for 2 hours. There's a lot of content in there. As I said, you got a long career, and just a massive thanks for giving up this amount of time and your contribution to the sport over all these years. It's been, as I said, a lot of years, times watching you in person and now in streams and stuff like that. And you always know it's interesting when you're in a race, because you usually have a red hot crack.
Yeah, thanks, man. And like, it's been a bit of a challenging week. And when you kind of messaged me, I was, just really excited. I thought this is probably not a bad way just to recap it and sort of go over it and not put it to bed, but, just kind of be satisfied and sort of, go to Brisbane and hopefully be a bit lighter in the shoulders. And
it's just storytelling too. And it's like,
have a bit of fun.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll watch the Brisbane result. Do many people know you're doing that? Or are people going to think you come out of retirement?
It's kind of funny because I retired, and then it's like, wait a second, he's back racing.
He's back. John Farnham kind of stuff.
Yeah, so no, I did just put something on my Instagram story, just letting people know that if they want to come out and watch me one last time, it'll be my last one. If they want to watch me in person or on the live stream.
Oh, that's going to be special. Beautiful, mate. Well, we'll try and package this and, get it out maybe tomorrow. Friday, Saturday, just to then people can have a bit of a listen, and then hopefully get a few more eyeballs on the last race of Jeff Riseley.
Well, thank you, and I'm probably going to have to come to you for some advice on marathon training soon. So
I'm more than happy to help you out. Be good to see you. I think you'll surprise yourself in that, because it is a whole different part of our sport that so many people do.
So what do I need to be in, alpha flies or vapor flies? What's my shoe?
I think either or, you're pretty good.
Okay.
Just, I went alphas for Melbourne, just because I like that little foam thing up the front. But if I'd left those at home and accidentally packed the vapor flies, I wouldn't have lost any sleep over it. It's they're both just so good shoes that it doesn't matter.
I'm thinking Alpha Flies just so I've got a bit more foam under my feet just to save the legs a bit. That's what I'm thinking, especially if I'm 80 kilograms.
Yeah. You're throwing a bit more weight through them than I am.
Yeah. So. Stewie reckons the Alpha Flies he loves them. He wears them all the time. And he loves them because he reckons the heavier you are, the more you get out of them.
Well, yeah, that's what I always say about Moose, who I do the podcast with. Like, he's a bit of a bigger fella, and I reckon he gets more than like the 4% benefit. I reckon he gets like 10. That's why he's had a big breakthrough since the super shoes have come out. So, it's got nothing to do with his good training over the years. Yeah. It's all about the shoes.
After you guys had a few beers, is like the 10%, does the number just go further up?
It keeps going up now.
Yeah.
Beautiful, mate. Well, I'm sure we could do this for another hour if we wanted to, but thanks again for your time.
Yeah, thanks, mate. And I'm, pre-Melbourne, I'll have to come and jump in for some runs.
But here I stand, a man whose roots he understands, and I'm gonna hold my head up high. I was taught as a young man, doesn't matter if you're white or black. Just show love to everyone you meet, doesn't matter if